Alright, so everybody see what this console looks like. This is version 10. And if we look at version 11, it pretty much looks identical, except for the logo on top here. So this is the version 11 console. Like I said, it's pretty close to the other one. If we look on the top here,
काम नहीं है क्या?
any really
नहीं, खाना नहीं लेके जा
I
रहा
don't
हूँ।
think any new options
खाना
top
नहीं लेके
here.
जा रहा हूँ।
So these are pretty much the same. The
You're going
components
down, huh?
here
हाँ,
are
Where?
out.
pretty much the same. We do properties in the file. They might have all the agents installed yet.
Thanks,
so
man.
kind of building out
I
the
don't have money
environment.
also.
So if you see like the file system agent, it's pretty much exactly the same. One of the different things that we did do before, we used to have all the tabs. We had all the tabs across the top here. So we kind of minimized the number of tabs here. But if you click the advanced button, then the rest of the tabs show up here. So they're like the retention, encryption, and telesnap advanced options. Those are all under the advanced button now. One thing that we did add is we had a request before. We could only exclude a whole client from SLA and strike count. Meaning they would show up in the reports even if no jobs are run. So we moved that option from the client level down to the sub-client level. So that's one change in version 10, like I said, all or version 11, sorry.
It's already 9:30. We'll be here, right?
One question that says how we check the data was encrypted. For version 10, basically the report, the summer report, or the off-copy reports will specify that the data was encrypted and what encryption type was used. But like I said, I think yesterday, the only way to tell the data was encrypted, I mean, is to actually try to use get out the data with third-party tools. Within Commvault, we're able to restore the data because we have the encryption keys, but you shouldn't be able to restore to read the tapes. I don't think we have a verify encryption option. We don't have a verify encryption option in Commvault right now. I don't think version 11 does either. Let me see what they actually have for encryption options. And so these options here are pretty much identical to 10. Those options are the same. So everything here is pretty much the same as 10. One thing we did here is we changed description from text to HTML. So we're doing a couple of little different things there. One thing on our activity control, so before we only had enable backup, enable restore, we also have enable.
Your call has been put on hold by the other party. Please wait. لقد تم وضع مكالمتكم في الانتظار من قبل الطرف الآخر. الرجاء الانتظار. Your call has been put on hold by the other party. Please wait.
All right. So we have enable data aging, so we can move that down to the client level as well, meaning I can age data or not age data on this client. So that's something again new for version 11. So let me check what the encryption option was here. Yeah, the option is the same. Unfortunately, there's no real verify encryption option. There's just basically the reports. We remind them tell them that the client was encrypted, what cipher and keys were used, but nothing to really verify the actual encryption itself, I guess. So a couple of new things. Version 11. So for virtualization, you see here we've added Red Hat, so that'll be new out of the gate. Like I said, other ones are coming. OpenStack and Docker will be a little bit down the road. For application, we have a new one here for SharePoint Farm. So remember when I was saying for SharePoint, it was very easy if we have multiple front-end web servers to duplicate the sub-client information across the multiple SharePoint agents that we had installed. This will help with that out. Basically, we do all the configuration from one single location, and then we can just have multiple SharePoint agents as proxies, basically. So something similar to the way we set up virtualization for VMware with the VSA agent. We'll have the same kind of thing for SharePoint. So basically give it the client name, a SharePoint version. Now this is only going to work with SharePoint 2010 and 2013. Won't work with anything less. And then the member servers, these would be any servers that have SharePoint installed on them. We'll have a primary SharePoint server, and then secondary, or depending on how many SharePoint servers you have installed in the environment. So this one is new for version 11. For security, we're now moving to a roles-based type security. So again, this will be new for version 11. When you upgrade from 10 to 11, it is going to try to convert whatever security you have set up into a role. But we have like MSP subscription, master, end user, compliance. So these are all the default roles that we have set up that we can again assign different entities or capabilities to. Storage resources, we have here. Under the dedupe engine itself, we can create a new global storage policy right from here. Again, we can still do it from the storage policy, but we can create a new global policy from here as well.
So, Brian?
Yeah.
Real quick about the roles. What's the key difference between that and, say, making a ComCell user group? Is it just like automated that they've given specific permissions as a role?
Yeah, so basically we still have the computer groups here. The loads. So still a master group. So if I double click on the group, I have members of the group and associations. The association is actually a role. So I create roles and then I actually associate the role to the group. So I can basically add a new role here. I can select a role. So these are different roles that I see here. And so now instead of associating capabilities, basically I associate a role. So that's kind of where the difference is.
So like they pigeonholed it basically. So, if you're a help desk person or a DBA, you can go under this role and we've already pre-selected, what you're going to need to see basically.
Yeah, although we can still create new roles as well. So obviously if these roles aren't good enough, I can create a new one and give it permissions and access as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so the users is the same. We create user groups. It's just the roles now, or the capabilities are kind of gone, and we create roles instead of the capability.
ఏం తొందరగా వచ్చావు
On the disk library, on the mount path, something new. We have a validate mount path. So basically, what the validate mount path does is it'll check the mount path for performance. So I can give it parameters here, number of writer threads, block size, file count, that kind of thing, and then it just validates the actual mount path. So it's going to read and write data from the path, and then show us how fast or how much data or basically how fast we can read data off that mount path. That's something new. Locations, that's the same. Media agents. What's new for the media agents? So for catalog, you see here there's no options for a network share. So again, remember I mentioned if we're going to go from version 10 to 11, in Service Pack 7 we disabled the use of network shares, but we still allowed them to use it if they were using it. They just couldn't create a new one. Version 11 we get the network shares all together, or we get rid of them for the index cache. So you want to make sure that you get their index cache locally before we go to version 11. This is just version. We do have a new indexing, like I mentioned, for version 11. Again, the new indexing only takes into account file systems right now. So if I install a net new, and there's no way, it just turns on the default behavior of the new indexing as soon as I install a fresh new file system agent. It'll do a new indexing feature. The way that it looks is, let me take a look at my index cache here. So you see we have all these logs. So now we're going to be starting generating log files for the jobs. These log files are going to be what's getting written to the backup job. It goes down quite far to get there, but we'll be writing logs with our backup files or with our backup jobs as opposed to writing the whole index. Right now, again, it's only for file system data, so Windows, Linux, Unix. It's not for any applications or databases yet. All the policies are the same. For storage policies, we now have a new, what we call global secondary copy policy. What this is meant for, it's mostly for tape. And what I mean by that, so if we have a bunch of storage policies that we had to write off to tape. So if I have multiple storage policies in my environment that I have tape copies that I send off-site, we can create a global secondary copy, meaning I can send data from multiple storage policies to this global secondary copy policy to send my tapes off-site. So basically combining data from different storage policies into a single policy to get better tape utilization when I'm sending them off-site.
Can you do it for disk too if you're off copying all your storage policies off?
Let's see. I don't think so because I have my disk library created here, but it doesn't show it in the drop-down, so I believe it's only for tape only. Actually, I can probably quickly test that. Actually, that's probably one thing for you guys to know anyway, so I'll show you. Within Commvault, we can create a virtual disk library. So if you go to the base directory in Commvault, and this is version 10 as well. Hopefully it's still in version 11. Yeah, so there's a tool called Virtual Library Tool. So basically, I can right-click, add a new library. This is just my media agent. So here it gives me, it's just it creates a virtual library within Commvault. Drive count means I have 4 drives. Drive identifiers, so basically I right-click, add new drive identifier and drive for all drives. So basically just gives me a serial number. I click OK. Drives is here. Whenever I go to element status, once it's created, I can now add tapes. So I'm going to prefix CD or CD1, and I can create a number of tapes here. So basically it says write to hard drive. Actually what it's going to do is write these tapes. If I can actually use the library, and I'll write the information to disk. The other thing I have to do is highlight them all and actually put them inside the library. So now this should create a library within Commvault that I can actually use for tape operations. So we'll see if it works. If I go to my storage, library drive configuration, I still have to configure it. So this configures it just like a real tape library. start, detect, configure devices. You can do an exhaust detection, although I think in the virtual library it's going to give me some errors. So here found the log. This is more for a demo. You definitely would not use this in a customer environment. This is strictly for demoing. A lot of times when we're demoing like virtually, like I am, I don't have a tape library in my environment, but at least I can go through and show how the library is configured and set up. We can actually still run jobs to it. I can run off-copy jobs to it. It just writes it out to disk. The disk space is just located in the, I think it's in the base directory or it's in the install directory where Commvault is. But it's just strictly for demo purposes. Absolutely not for a customer environment.
Right.
Cool. And we don't want customers using this as a tape library, like as a BTL. Even though technically they could, we definitely don't want them to. So to add the tape library, just click on OK. So this is, I get a lot of warnings, obviously because it's trying to mount tapes and it can't because it's just a virtual library. So, but now when it shows up, just like when we sit on day one, everything's not configured. So if I right-click the library, go configure, library and all drives. It'll take a couple of minutes to figure up everything. So that's the default media. In my case, this will be virtual tape. And so now I have a completely configured library. So I can exit here. Now my library shows up under here. And it looks and feels like a real library. So if I go media by location, media and library, these are the tapes that I created and stuck in there. Basically each tape I think holds like 10 gigs of data. Or 40 gigs of data, sorry. So each tape holds 40 gigs, which just writes it up to disk. So now if I create that policy, global secondary, yeah, so it's only for tape. It only shows me tape libraries here. And you see the icon here is different for the global policies. So it's basically primary copy, working copy. So this is absolutely just for consolidating tapes into one policy, so you ship them all off. Basically saving space, so I don't use too many tapes. I should be able to associate that to a secondary, I think. Again, I haven't really played around with this too much. So here it says use global secondary copy policy. So check that out. Check my tape off. It's automatically going to use that library. So this is how I get all these secondary copies to use that set of tapes. My retention and everything is still set at this level. That's why the retention tab is grayed out on the my global tape copy. But now it just allows me to write all these jobs to that set of tapes, as opposed to having a set of tapes for each individual one. So basically that's how it works. It's kind of like pointing to a global policy. Instead of pointing to a global, I just point to a global secondary policy. But again, it's a tape only. So that's new in version 11. What else? I think the reports are pretty much the same. We do have, somebody was asking the other day about VWeb. So in version 10, there's an option that says VWeb. What the VWeb is, and wasn't really supposed to be in version 10, kind of got there by mistake. What VWeb is it's an administration console, but it's an administration console for basically the virtual servers. So I have servers here. I don't have any servers set up. When it says add, select vendor type. My vendor type is Hyper-V or VMware. So right now it only works with Hyper-V or VMware. But basically it's a web page that I can install and enable specifically for end users that are accessing the virtual environment like VMware or Hyper-V. So they can see any jobs here. They can see any alerts, any events, storage, what users have access. So basically this is all information or a web page that they can use to monitor and administer just the VM type backups. That's what the VWeb does. In version 10, like I said, it's there, but it wasn't really meant for prime time. Version 11, and now it's here and fully ready for prime time use.
Hey Brian.
Yep.
Question about the third party and about the logo. How do we change that? Can you send an email to me, or how does it work?
Yeah, for the logo, once I get the information, I'll send an email to everybody just so everybody has that information. I don't have it yet, but I'll find out. Once I get it, I'll send it.
And I also requested for the change to be done on Exchange and SQL for restore purpose and backup purpose. The list of things is fine. Can you put a document together and send it to us?
Oh yeah, the requirements.
Yeah. Importantly, what needs to be checked out on the SQL and Exchange before we restore or backup something. And the SharePoint.
Yep.
Is it okay I can leave the conference a little bit early now?
Yeah, we're just going through the version 11 stuff.
Yeah, and is there any certification you send to us, or how does it work at the end of the time?
Basically, there's the exam to write that's related to this course that you should be able to get linked to from the partner university. The link for the exams should be there and online.
Okay, right. So when it will be available, is it actually available, or?
Yep, should be available now.
We should take that exam any time, or we should complete it at the continuation of time we have to complete it?
There's no time to complete it. Once you do start the exam, there's a 2-hour time limit, but there's no time frame that you have to take it within a certain amount of time.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Really appreciate
All right.
for all your help, and I'll be in touch with you in the email.
All right, no problem. This is VWeb. I believe we plan on having a couple of different consoles to give access to different portions of the product through a console, as opposed to the admin page or the GUI console here. We also have web console, which I don't think we changed much in the web console.
When next week, will we come, right?
Yeah.
Not this week, after that.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Bye.
enjoy.
Oh, maybe I didn't install the web console.
Bye-bye.
Nope, maybe I didn't install it yet. I thought I did. much the same, except we now have analytics reporting as well. So we have file analytics, email, web, database, NAS, CSV, which I assume would be a Hyper-V CSV, different websites. I'm not really sure what the EU 10555 means. Maybe it just means they don't have any information yet about those. So that would be new. This events organizer, not really sure what that is. I guess we can organize events, RSVP. Not really sure why we'd want to do that, but apparently we can. Apparently we can organize events for a birthday party, business meeting, Christmas, conference, discussions, a farewell party. All right. So that's definitely new. Not sure exactly what we do with it, but it's there. The reports, again, we have more reporting up in the web console as well. And we have our worldwide report. So again, these are the same kind of reports like we had in version 10. The one thing that it sort of did a little bit better was instead of having to scroll to the bottom and just kind of list all the reports out, which is much better. And those we can still download from the store. We also knew for version 11 the reports manager. So with reports manager now we can build more custom reports. So we have data sources, advanced settings, but now we can build customized reports. Makes it a lot easier to build those. So basically just click on new report. And now it gives me options. I can drag, I can have a pie chart, line chart, data set. Create a data set with different inputs from the sources from the COM cell, for message reporting server, which database. So you can really customize now or get more customizable reports out of the COM server. Question, anything new with the log monitoring? Or with the log monitoring? Oh, yeah. Sorry. There you go. I don't think there was. Let me just look between the old ones. I can add different templates here. It looks pretty much the same as before.
What's that even used for?
We can monitor logs. So I can monitor logs of the database. I can monitor Windows events, syslogs, on-demand logs. Basically, it's just I can monitor logs for any errors in the log and generate reports based on what I find. Not just within Commvault, but on Windows machines as well. So if we go Windows, give it a name. I can say which computer, obviously this one. Now here I can specify criteria. So I can look for different things within the log, like event IDs, general tasks, sources. Basically, it just allows me to monitor all the logs in the server and generate alerts based on whatever I find in the logs particular that I might be looking for. So it could be something outside of Commvault. It doesn't have to be Commvault specific that I'm looking for stuff in the logs. It could be really anything. But basically, just Commvault now has the ability to monitor logs of any system and generate alerts based on what it sees in the logs, based on our whatever criteria that we find. And I also can do it for syslogs, like I said, databases. What options is here? Yeah, so one good example, like they do said, like monitoring event logs, like for BSS error during a change backups. But you can set it for anything. This would be for content indexing. So I can search content indexing. I don't have an engine installed here, obviously, but it'll allow me to search anything that's been indexed, like from a content indexing for any of these alerts, audit trails, or event viewers. Then I can report on those as well. Just text, basically text log files. These would be Commvault logs I can monitor on. So let's see what the options are over here. Again, the client computers. So it's upon a logs directory. Next. Again, I can specify criteria of what I want to search for. Process ID, thread, date, time, job IDs. So I can look through Commvault logs for specific information, Windows logs for specific information, or syslogs. But again, it's just a tool. That's a log monitoring tool within Commvault. Kind of the direction that Commvault is going is more data management, not just within Commvault, but outside of Commvault. So that's why we're going to be seeing things being added that really don't have anything to do with backup, but it's just more of a monitoring or gathering information within the environment.
For planning parties.
Like planning parties, yeah. Yeah, I don't know why that's there, to be honest, but it's there. So yeah, he can plan parties now too. That's actually kind of funny, but anyway.
It really is, actually.
Yeah, that's not too sure about that one. But yeah, if you want to plan a party, use Commvault. Probably shouldn't joke around there considering it's my own software, but anyway, still funny. So basically, as you can see, there's not, we didn't really change a whole lot. So a GA or general release of version 11, there's not going to be a whole lot that's new. There's a few changes.
Brian, actually, will there be a beta version which we can download and test at this 11? Yeah. Actually. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay, Brian.
Yeah, so like I said, there's not a whole lot that'll be new in version 11 I released. So I just went over a couple of the changes. There's not really a whole lot, like I said, to be honest. The major of the changes are going to be dropping probably in Service Act 2, 3, or 4. That's kind of when we're looking at the bulk of the changes or the bulk of the new features coming around. So if you install version 10, you should have no issues installing version 11. The installer for version 10 is much easier.
Yeah, yesterday it was there.
So the installer, this installer I believe is still not beta, but this installer has all the different software products. When it's launched, you won't see the select edition drop down, so it'll just go straight into the install. So you have to see welcome to Compound Installer. Select packages to install. I can add packages or install updates. I'm going to add. So they broke it down a little bit differently here from the regular installer that we used to seeing. So we have the server components, we have Windows components, virtualization, database, applications, and then tools. You notice there's no Linux options here because the DVD that I have is strictly Windows only, but don't worry, you still support Linux and Unix. So these are all the different options. One thing you'll notice is that Operations Manager is gone. I believe that's just rolled right into the ComServe now. And there's the admin console. That's the VWeb console that I was showing earlier. This one here, that's the admin console, VWeb. So once I fix the components, basically it's just going to give you a summary. Then once you hit the next or the arrow, basically, it's not like before where it showed you all the different splash screens and you had to click next, and it showed you installing SQL. Basically now it's just a red bar that goes across until it's completely done. So it's a bit more streamlined that way. With the timeline for each for version 11, yeah, so like I said, within the next couple of weeks, I think the official date is the 15th. I don't think we pushed that date, but it's within the next couple of weeks for sure. Well, the 15th is next week, I think. And VPN access, not sure what you're asking about VPN access. The tools section of the installer. Oh, let me close the crap. All right. Tools. Oh, VPN access.